Right, that was insane on several levels. At least you got your money's worth entertainment-wise in this game. Lions 40, 49ers 34. I thought this was going to be a close game. I thought the Lions were going to get into the 30s. I thought the 49ers would be in the upper 20s because both defenses were overmatched in this football game, but it got even higher than that. Both defenses looked inept for most of the game. Brock Purdy, Jared Goff back and forth. And then, of course, in the second half, Brock Purdy threw those 2 interceptions. But what stood out to me the most was where Kyle Shanahan dropped the ball. The 49ers perfectly balanced in the first half. That was one of the best statistical halves that we'd seen from any quarterback ever. When Brock Purdy went for 200 yards in the first half, over 1 expected point added per play, 14 to 16. There were 16 passes and 15 runs called in the first half. Perfect balance and execution to hide the fact that the 49ers were playing with a 4th-string left tackle and behind a decimated offensive line. There was a stretch in the second half where the 49ers, and Kyle Shanahan, because he's calling the plays, called 16 straight pass plays. Brock Purdy's second interception to Kirby Joseph came on the 10th straight pass play. 10 straight pass plays. They ran Isaac Guerrero on the first play at the start of the fourth quarter, and then 10 straight pass plays. Deep passes, short passes. I mean, they were picking up yards. They're also incurring penalties. There was a sack in there. The 49ers never passed 10 straight times unless they're down by 3 scores. Until today, throughout the entirety of that 10-pass stretch, this was a 1-possession game. Not once did they run, even though they were averaging 4 yards per carry. So what happens there is that the defense is reading the quarterback's eyes. They don't have to worry about the run game anymore. And the Lions defense, even though it had been overmatched all game, was no longer worrying about the run game. They're reading Brock Purdy's eyes, and on the 10th straight pass, they intercept him. I thought it was bizarre. I had never seen anything like that from Kyle Shanahan. I mean, we had talked about him getting too pass happy in certain big games in the past. It happened in the Super Bowl, but never to the extent where the 49ers were within a score and they would throw 10 straight times. You know, I could think of like a super pass happy game for the Shanahan standards and the 49ers standards back in New Orleans in 2019. Remember Jimmy G, 48-46 over the Saints? That game ended up being 35 passes, 24 runs. 49ers only ran the ball 17 times in this game. This game, it was 40-plus passes, 17 runs, and 16 straight throws, and on the 10th straight throw, you had that second interception. To me, I just had never seen anything like it, and the 49ers obviously they made Brock Purdy play this game on a tightrope after he had been just electric over the course of the first half. You know who wasn't electric? The 49ers defense. My goodness, were they embarrassed in this game. Now, I get it. They don't have Dre Greenlaw. They don't have they didn't have Charvarius Ward either. Out, personal reasons, birth of a baby boy for Charvarius Ward. But they, at no point in this game, I think if 49ers fans were watching this, would they think that the 49ers defense had the upper hand. I mean, it was just time and time again. For a long time, Nick Sorensen wasn't dialing up a single blitz. And it was like, especially after the first drive of the second half, it was like you have to do something different. You have to mix up the looks that Jared Goff is getting. The Lions, you know, their entire defense might be wiped out, and that's going to create big problems for them, as you saw on this field today. It's going to create big problems for them in the postseason. But at least their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, was dialing up exotic pressures, making Brock Purdy see different things. Even if a lot of those didn't work, even if Purdy burned them, he threw for 377 yards against the Lions. But even if those pressures didn't work on the play on which they were called, it created confusion, and it created a situation where the Lions gave themselves a chance on those 2 takeaways. The 49ers have taken the ball away once over the past 6 games. At some point, you can't just say, okay, they're losing personnel. You know, obviously the personnel losses, I think, hurt the run defense. But when they get picked apart in the pass game and don't even come close to forcing a takeaway, and they led the NFL in takeaways over the past 2 seasons entering this one, at some point you have to say this is a schematic issue, and Nick Sorensen just looked lost out there for the 49ers in this game. I thought that there had been some progress made on that front. This was one of the best offenses in the NFL, so obviously deficiencies were re-exposed, but it's not just this game. It's one takeaway for the 49ers over the past 6. So when they talk about fixing things this offseason, revamping the defense, bringing back some of what the defense did really well in seasons prior to this one, you have to find a way to start generating some more takeaways. It was way too easy for Jared Goff back there against the 49ers in this game. Then there's the obvious. We just do math. They lose this game 40-34. That's 6 points. Jake Moody misses 2 field goals, a 51-yarder and a 58-yarder, and an extra point at the end for a good measure. So that's 7 points left on the board in the kicking game. Now, I'm going to be fair. I'm fair to all players. I don't get too positive. I don't get too negative. We're objective here. A 58-yard field goal is hard. You don't expect the kicker to make a 58-yard field goal. But we also judge everything within the context of that specific moment. And Jake Moody has been missing a lot ever since the high ankle sprain. 93% before the high ankle sprain field goal rate made, down to 63% after he came back from the high ankle sprain, starting with the 3 misses against Tampa Bay. So he's been missing a lot. Huge miss last week against Miami. Then he missed the 51-yarder today, which really could have helped the 49ers. I mean, that's a kick you have to make in the NFL. So I almost thought that Kyle Shanahan was giving Jake Moody, like extending a favor. 58 yards, you don't send most kickers out there, especially struggling ones, to kick a 58-yarder. But it's like, hey, here, I believe in you. Let me give you a long kick to showcase your talent. And Jake Moody missed that one fairly badly as well. I mean, when you have a talented kicker like Jake Moody with the big leg that they saw in college, you look at those longer 50-yarders a little bit differently, especially after he's missed so much before. So I don't know what the 49ers do at that kicking position. We saw Shanahan, or heard Shanahan, give Jake Moody the vote of confidence this week. He did not give him a vote of confidence before that after the miss against Miami. I think that you can't have, I mean, maybe the high ankle sprain was the reason for all the struggles this year, but how is Jake Moody going to prove that he can get over those struggles for the 2025 season? Because today, if you just look at the math, the missed field goals plus the missed extra point were the difference in this game. They lose by 6, 40-34, and they lost 7 points through just the kicking game in this football game. We do have to zoom out, though, and talk about the resurgence of not just Brock Purdy and you know, some of the offensive weapons. Ricky Pearsall had over 100 yards receiving less than 4 months after getting shot in the chest. I think a lot of people were wrong about Ricky Pearsall. He's a dude. That's great for the 49ers heading into 2025. But I think it's important to talk about the offense as a collective in the first half, how good they looked. Behind the 4th string left tackle, behind all those backup offensive linemen, without Christian McCaffrey, without Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, I know Detroit's beaten up defensively. 49ers looked better than anybody who had played Detroit over the course of that first half. And I give a lot of that credit to Kyle Shanahan for showing creativity that the 49ers hadn't shown before they're eliminated. A lot of lateral rushing creativity. They even tried a trick play off of it with the throw from Ricky Pearsall. Didn't work in the second half. But you have to commend Shanahan and the 49ers for being as creative and as balanced as they were in that first half. The plays that Debo were working around the edge, the plays that Pearsall were working, the Kittle were working. Everything was working for the 49ers. Purdy was delivering deep passes, short passes. He was throwing, you know, those grenades. There was that one deep pass that he threw off of pressure as the pocket was collapsing on him. I mean, everything was impressive for San Francisco. But to me, that made the second half all the more jarring when they just decided to throw the ball 10 times. Maybe they got lazy because everything was working in the first half, but you cannot abandon the run. This league, if you abandon the run, defensive linemen are going to pin their ears back and they're going to go after the quarterback. Purdy looked like he's hurt his hand at the end of the game when he got knocked out. That was on the 16th straight pass. You've got to protect your investment in Brock Purdy. You cannot have a QB, especially in the close game, passing multiple straight times. I don't care if you're Josh Allen. I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes has been helped a lot by a run game this year. So has Allen. You have to continue balancing your offensive play calls so that the defense doesn't know exactly what's coming, so the quarterback can play the game downhill. And the way that Shanahan called that second half made Brock Purdy play the game uphill, made him play it on a tightrope. So don't be surprised when there's a couple interceptions. And it's a weird stat line, right? His rating was like 116. He had 377 passing yards. He dominated in a way that we probably even hadn't seen from Brock Purdy, despite the MVP finalist season last year in that first half. But then he throws 2 interceptions. And I think that the clear delineation here is that Detroit ran the ball over 30 times in a close game, and the 49ers ran the ball only 17 times in a close game. So if you're the 49ers, you look at this as almost a microcosm of the season. We saw a lot of weird play calling from Kyle Shanahan this year. I thought that he showed that he still can have his fastball in that first half. He showed that he can make the adjustments that can carry over into 2025 in the first half. But a team that's really struggled to finish this year, the 49ers, struggled to finish again. And a lot of it was that they just did not maintain the play calling balance that they did from first half to second half. And this was all, there was one path to victory today. It was going to have to be balanced offense through and through the entire game, ball control, balanced offense, scoring points, because the defense was not going to guide the 49ers to victory. Jake Moody was not going to guide the 49ers to victory. This was a deeply flawed team. We all knew that. There was one path to upset the Lions. They looked like they were on it for a little while, but then they diverged from it, and that's the final score. Ultimately, this was a meaningless game as far as the standings are concerned. Detroit, even, they didn't stand anything to benefit from this one. They're going to have to beat the Vikings next week for the 1 seed. 49ers and Arizona next week. That's going to end this torturous 2024 season for the 49ers. Everybody, Happy New Year. That was fun. That was entertaining. Saw the 49ers offense do a lot of good stuff. We saw them do some really head-scratching stuff from the play-calling perspective. But I guess it doesn't hurt as bad for the 49ers since it just happened in an exhibition. Lions 40, 49ers 34. Are you not entertained? I was. That was fun to watch. We'll talk to you guys soon.